Well, hello there, YouTube. Welcome to Monday's edition of The Breakfast Club. I'm Got That Funk. Thanks for joining me. Nathan Brendan Masters brought up the topic for this week's discussion on Wednesday last week, which is, what do we think is going to happen with the situation between the United States and North Korea? What do we think ought to happen? What do we think is going to happen? And those are two entirely separate questions, which I will address in a moment. But since Nathan's not going to be here this Wednesday on The Breakfast Club, I'm going to wrap up for him and talk about the other two contributions as well. JJ Talks on Thursday basically mentioned that she didn't really know what to suggest about North Korea because, quite frankly, the situation is incredibly complicated, and it seems like every single thing that you can think of for a solution has the potential to make things worse. And in a sense, JJ, I think that's probably the most intelligent thing you could say about it, because quite honestly, if the situation was easy to fix, we would have fixed it already. It is extremely complicated, and one of the reasons it's gotten to the pitch that it has gotten to is because it's so complicated that everything that we've tried to do hasn't worked, and everything that we can think of doing but we haven't tried will make things worse. So, I don't think you copped out at all. I think putting my hands up and going, look, I can't see a solution is a pretty fair comment. However, whether we like it or not, whether we like the available alternatives or not, one of those alternatives is going to manifest itself in the near future. We just don't know how it's going to play out. Kazum Fowler on Sunday had a really interesting idea. He was basically saying that instead of waging some kind of conventional war, we should basically wage a propaganda war. The people of North Korea are essentially in a hostage situation. There's 25 plus million people in North Korea, and none of them know anything about the outside world other than what their state media tells them. And of course, their state media is carefully controlled by the people in power to provide them with a narrative that is approved and in the interests of the state. So I think Kazum is absolutely right when he says that we should wage a propaganda war and give those people a window to the rest of the world that they have so far been denied. I'm not sure how you would make that manifest, but I think that would go an awfully long way to undermining the power of the regime, because at the moment, as far as I can tell from everything I read in the media anyway, which could of course also be propaganda, but as far as I can tell what I read in the media, the people of North Korea are essentially brainwashed into thinking that the rest of the world is out to get them. And you can be forgiven for thinking that anyway, because it kind of looks like that with all the bellicose rhetoric from Donald Trump. Now, it's a perfectly fair question to go, what are we going to do about North Korea? What are we going to do about Kim Jong-un? He's clearly a megalomaniac, and he's got his hands on nuclear weapons, and that can't be allowed. Well, yeah, sure. I agree. I've been arguing against nuclear proliferation my entire life. As far as I'm concerned, nuclear weapons should not exist for any country whatsoever. To me, it's a miracle that they've not been used since 1945. Nothing short of a miracle. Like I say, it's a fair question to say, what are we going to do about Kim Jong-un? He's obviously a nutty dictator, crazy guy, and he shouldn't have the nukes. Which, of course, is true. But let's call a spade a spade. Donald Trump has made the most belligerent statements on Twitter regarding Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And that's bad in its own right. That risks provoking an open conflict in its own right. And that's just plain stupid. But more to the point, he went to the United Nations, and as the President of the United States, the most powerful country in the world, the only country in the world who ever has used nuclear weapons, and threatened to destroy an entire country of 25 million people. So, whilst it's fair to say, what are we going to do about Kim Jong-un? What are we going to do about North Korea? What are we going to do about the fucking United States? What are we going to do about Donald Trump? This guy is not stable enough to have the kind of power that he has. That's self-evident at this point. Now, getting back to the original question, what are we going to do about it? Well, from my point of view, it's already too late. Ever since the mid-noughties, North Korea has been in possession of nuclear devices, and they have been steadily improving their missile technology over the past decade or two, to the point where now they're firing things over Japan and into the Pacific Ocean to test them. But I would put this proposition forward. When Kim Jong-un tests a missile, Yes, of course, they're testing the technology, and they're gathering data and results. Of course they are. Don't get me wrong. But what he's really testing is Donald Trump. Every time a new president comes in, somewhere around the world, someone tries to test that person to see where their boundaries are, to see whether they're going to be a statesman or not. Well, Donald Trump has clearly failed the statesman test, 1,000%. And if we go to war against North Korea, I can't support that. The only way I would ever support attacking North Korea is if they actually bombed us first. Now, if North Korea did bomb the United States with a conventional weapon, or U.S. territories like Guam, or one of our allies like the Japanese or the South Koreans, and if used conventional weapons, that would pose its own set of problems, because conventional weapons don't invite a nuclear response, thank goodness, but they still invite a response. And when you're having responses going back and forth between two powers that have nuclear weapons, there isn't a lot of room for maneuver. There's not a lot of room for making a miscalculation. And let's be clear about what nuclear weapons can actually do. Not only will nuclear weapons kill a huge number of people the instant of the explosion, but as many or more than that will die as a result of the explosion after the fact, due to radiation poison and mutations and skin dropping off. And the rest of us in the world, depending on the scale of the nuclear war, will have to contend with radioactive isotopes in our food and water. We could all suffer, even if we're not directly attacked, depending on the scale of the conflict. Now, let us suppose, for example, that Donald Trump decides that it's in America's interest to launch a sneak attack on North Korea and try to take out the regime. Whether they use a nuclear weapon or not is almost immaterial, because if it fails to knock out the North Korean leadership, then we are in a situation where we have invited a response. And I wouldn't want to live in, it would be unimaginably horrible if a nuclear weapon landed on, for example, Los Angeles or San Francisco, because those are extremely densely populated areas. But it would be just as horrific if it landed on Anchorage or Honolulu or someplace like that. So it's not about the number of people that get killed. It's about the results. It's more than just the death. We can't allow any set of circumstances to arise where nuclear weapons are used in war. If we start firing weapons in the direction of North Korea, do you think China is just going to sit there and let us do it, or Russia, without any answer back? Both of them also have nuclear weapons. There is no room for making a mistake here. And from my point of view, it's already too late to stop him from having nuclear weapons. It's already too late for us to prevent him from acquiring missile technology. So the only strategy that we can adopt, that we can safely or semi-safely go forward in, is one of containment, to make sure that the regime has no friends and allies, to make sure that they don't export this technology. That's extremely important. And because nuclear proliferation cannot be allowed to keep getting worse. When I was a kid, there were 5 countries with the bomb. Now there's 9. All right? So it's almost doubled in my lifetime. We can't let that happen in my children's lifetime as well, because sooner or later, some maniac will press that button. And none of us deserve that. I want to thank you for watching this video. I look forward to a robust discussion in the comment section down below. Next to bring up a round-robin topic will be JJ Talks on Thursday, although I think I might have a stand-in for someone on Wednesday. I haven't really worked out the details yet, but I'll let you know, or you'll find out by watching. Anyways, I look forward to what you got to say in the comment section down below, and I'll see you again next week. Thanks for watching.